You're listening to the Savoir Faire audio experience.
Are you ready?
The Savoir Faire experience is your guide to everything that has to do with lifestyle. From dating, rides, style, and entertainment. All brought to you by the editor of Savoir Faire magazine, Robert White. Anything goes on this audio experience. So, let's go.
It's still the best.
All right, guys, welcome to the Savoir Faire audio experience. If you can hear it in my voice, I'm still fighting the cold, but I want to thank you for subscribing and listening and all the things that you do. We see you. We appreciate you. Today is another great interview with another great entrepreneur. I'm really excited to talk to this person about their products. This is Rebekah Lewis. Hi, Rebekah.
Hi, how are you?
Doing lovely. Thanks for being here and finding some time for us today.
So excited.
Appreciate it. So Rebekah Lewis is the owner of Onyx Petal. I'm excited to learn more about your products and things that you guys are doing over there. But I always like to talk about where people come from so people can kind of learn the backgrounds of an entrepreneur or the person that led them to what we're talking about. So maybe you could dive into a little bit of your background for me and just tell me a little bit about, like younger Rebekah, college years, what you were doing before you started your own business.
Yeah, so younger Rebekah actually went to college for design in apparel. And I spent the first probably 20 years in my career in retail and the fashion industry. So a lot of what I do now as an entrepreneur, I'm really fortunate that a lot of the business aspects and the sales and engaging with the customer was really transformative to me building a business and growing it.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, I love that. So what did you study in college specifically? Was it all just fashion? Did you go to a fashion school or just a focus for you?
Yeah, that was the focus for me. So I specifically focus in apparel design and merchandising, which has nothing to do with what I'm doing now, just in terms of design. But I'm a creator. I love to create. Went to school in California at Cal State University at Northridge.
Okay, very cool. So after college, did you launch a fashion brand at some point? Were you kind of divided or in that industry pretty heavy?
That was my intention when I started out, but just having these odds and ends retail jobs one thing led into another. So I ended up really loving how dynamic retail was, where, one day I grew into management and eventually became regional for a company, a California-based company. But I loved how dynamic retail was. One day you're on the sales floor engaging with the customer. The next day you're dealing with operations and workflow, scheduling, building a team, development. You feel like you're wearing every hat from like HR to, selling on the floor. So I just really loved how busy it kept me and how one day never mirrored the next. So you never knew what you were going to get.
Yeah, I've definitely done my share of retail before I was self-employed as well. So I completely understand. I went from, I managed a retail store for a long time. It's interesting to nonetheless, right? Because you're learning a lot of people's skills. You're learning about a lot of things. You're managing people. You're dealing with customers. Things are consistently changing, new product coming in, old things going out. It's kind of interesting to see how the trends move around. I wasn't in the fashion world at that point. I was in electronics, but still very similar kind of concepts with commerce in general. So that's very cool. I like hearing a little bit of like that kind of background story because it kind of guides me through, some questions we might ask or rabbit holes we can go down. Which is kind of
Sure.
cool. So after kind of retail, obviously now you are self-employed. Was there other opportunities that you took before becoming self-employed? How was the switch from that life to this life? I mean, that's a big thing for people.
Yeah. The switch for me sort of overlapped with my time in retail. I had this aha moment years back, just realizing that what we put on our skin actually goes into our bloodstream. And I am just a very, very sensitive person, skin-wise and also fragrance-wise. So for years, I was making products for myself, and that sort of developed into me gifting items to friends and family. And now it is a brand. So it's sort of interesting how much your past life just trickles into your present life and how much everything that you do impacts what you're doing in the now.
Yeah, that's cool. I like hearing that story because that means you were still working a 9 to 5 in retail, right?
Yep.
Still doing your thing,
Yep.
making products that were good for you because you needed them, right? I'm assuming.
Correct.
And then
Correct.
after gifting them to
Exactly.
people, were you just starting to get feedback from people? Were they saying, "Hey, this is like pretty interesting stuff"? Is what triggered you to be like, "I'm going to
Yeah.
start selling this"?
You know what? I had this all purpose balm that I was making, and I would put it on my lips. I would put it, on my body. And that was really what I was gifting to people. And it had this same scent profile that is now our best seller, which is Petal. And it's
Mm.
got some rose, sandalwood, citrus. And that I got a lot of response from, and people just asking for more of that. And every product now just developed from just that, out of necessity of me going, my hair is really dry and wanting to figure out a solve for that. And same with all the other products. It always starts with intention.
Very cool. Well, I got some products of yours, and when you said Petal was your main scent, I just opened this package up that was body drip, moisturizing
Oh,
and
yay.
nourishing stuff, and it happens to be Petal rose lemon sandalwood. So that's
Yep.
the one that I
Yep.
just smelled because I wanted to be interactive. So
I love it.
I
Well,
wish
tell
other
us
people
what
could
you think.
smell it too. Yeah, I mean it smells very cool. I am a guy, so it's not something that I think is ideal for my body, but I'm sure the benefits of the product are cool. Um, and that's one of the things I wanted to ask about too. So Onyx and Petal is the name of the company. Where did you come up with the
Yeah.
name of your company? And then do a little deep dive and tell us exactly what it is that you create.
Yeah. Yeah. Onyx and Petal, I was playing around with brand names, and once I kind of came up with this, it just felt right instantly, and I couldn't move past it. It really just has to do with the juxtaposition of something that's masculine and bold and fearless, next to something that is softer, more feminine. I think we all carry those traits, and I think it's a beautiful thing the way that those two things marry and how we know when to flex one or the other.
Hmm.
So that's really where it stemmed from.
Makes
And
sense.
our brand is all about self care. And I really, I want to be impactful to others in what I do. I mentioned earlier, I love to create, but I think it's just really important to feel like you're living life with some purpose and creating some impact for others. So our mission is really simple. It's about creating space for self care and wellness. And we do that through crafting these premium, non toxic products. And we really specialize in products that are going to be good for those with skin and fragrance sensitivity. I think now more and more, especially the more I engage at events and pop ups with clients directly, I'm learning how frequent it is that people are dealing with different sensitivities, mainly due to just these toxic chemicals that people are putting on their bodies or just even in the environment that you're completely unaware of.
Hmm. Yeah, when you mentioned that, like most of the products we put on our skin actually soak into our bloodstream, that was like an alarming piece for me too, because I was always under the assumption that because of the layers that we have in our body, from skin to muscle to whatever, that those things we were putting on our skin probably aren't getting to the bloodstream. So when you said that, I was like, well, wait a minute. Now there's a huge push, and no wonder there's a huge push for natural products and the things that we actually do put on our body, let alone in our body. So that's very cool. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of an alarming thing for most people, I'm sure, to even think about, but like it just makes sense to look for all natural, organic, non-toxic products, which is one of the things that you guys really kind of focus on. But I have interviewed a lot of entrepreneurs that always say kind of non-toxic, natural, all of that stuff, right? So in
Hmm.
your business, what do those words and terms mean for you guys? How are you using that stuff?
That's such a great question. Thanks for asking. I think, there is actually, I love that there are more non toxic options and that this is really gaining traction. I think it's a really good thing. But we also have to be careful of, greenwashing and some people using these words to capture your attention, but also just educating ourselves enough to understand if it's really non-toxic. So um, a focus for us is ingredients that you can understand. You don't need to. One thing that I really was discouraged about in my personal life was you'd grab something, it say non-toxic or it alluded to being non-toxic, and you look at the back and you don't understand anything that you're reading in terms of the ingredients. There's just like these foreign words. So we really wanted to focus on botanical ingredients, which are plant-based ingredients. You look at the ingredient list, very easy to understand. So we take a lot of the guesswork out or just the Googling and research. we like to make it really simple. But for products of ours, I mean, we go into as much depth as we possibly can. For our candle, for example, I burn candles because I love candles, but 90% of the time I would be triggered. I'd had headaches or watery eyes. And I worked with the leading natural fragrance house on something that was going to truly be natural, meaning it's all plant-based. So often something can be called non-toxic, but you still have some hidden ingredients in there that are triggering people. So we try to just be very intentional about doing our due diligence and making sure that we do everything we can to protect our customer and keep clean products at the forefront.
Yeah, that makes sense. The transparency part of your business is what's really unique to me, because I have seen a lot of products that have said that they were, kind of the different claims to being all natural and 100% natural and whatever. And then when you kind of, like you said, get into the ingredient of everything, it's really hard to figure out, okay, well, where's the natural part of this? Like some of these words I recognize in the scent or the flavor or that kind of aspect, but not really the deep dive into what I'm actually putting on my body or smelling. So I just opened up your candle, by the way, because I also have one of those.
Nice.
This one smells amazing. Smoky cedar wood is in this.
Yeah, so it's got a woodier, smokier,
Yeah,
definitely a unisex vibe.
absolutely.
Some Pacific Northwest West inspiration in there, since I'm based here in Washington.
This one smells so freaking good. This smells like the forest I haven't smelled yet, if that makes sense. Like I'm in New York, right? So we have forest obviously, but it doesn't smell like after the fresh rain. In the woods when everything's all crisp and smells great, it doesn't smell that cleanish. It just smells like a really I don't know, like big oak tree somewhere that I've never met or seen before. Like it does have a very cool kind of smell to it. I like that one. That's probably something I'm going to burn in my house. Not going to lie. Very, very cool product. Yeah. So I'm really curious about this too. One of the things that I saw on the website quite often, and you've kind of hinted at it while we've been talking, but we really haven't deep dived into this term that you keep using. Skin sensitivity seems to be a huge thing for you. It was for you.
Yeah.
That's why you started the line for yourself. And now you kind of really have that focus. And a lot of your marketing says skin sensitivity, which is cool. But talk to me about the things that you are running into that like people are actually had issues or something, and these things are not affecting that. So what are the things that you kind of recommend your product, not in health standard, but like if you use this and you have that, you'll be okay?
Yeah. So, disclaimer, you can never rule out what someone is going to be sensitive to. Some people have allergies to things that are natural, right? It can be a fruit, it can be a plant. But what I try to do is take as many of those out of the way as possible and focus on ingredients that are the least likely to trigger people. So, for example, and this sort of correlates to your previous question about non-toxic and what it means to us, when you see fragrance on the back of a product, often that can be a red flag, and I would dive a little deeper into that, because often that means there are potentially parabens, phthalates. There can be some triggering things in there where whatever we're using as scent profiles are truly natural. They are plant-based. We work with essential oils, and going even deeper into that, I like to use essential oils that are the least likely to trigger people. like rose. It's a very gentle, kind of soothing ingredient that is it's very rare that someone would be triggered by that. There's a lot of instances where something natural, like even coconut, can be triggering for people. So I don't just focus on natural. I take it a step further and I focus on natural that is less likely to bother people. So it's sort of two parts to the formulating process.
Yep. And I love that. And I can confirm because I have the body soak as well that you guys make.
Yeah,
And
I love it. Yeah.
I'm reading the back of this thing and it says 3 things. It says petals, oil, and salt. So I'm like, okay, this is pretty clean. There's nothing in here crazy. I don't see anything that's alarming at all or that I can't pronounce. So it's very cool.
Yeah. And I want to say one other thing to that, because that was such a good question. Another thing to keep in mind is that people want to lure you in with their product. So often, even if it's natural, there's way too much of an ingredient. And that's sometimes why people are triggered. So with our formulas, we make sure that we're focusing on the recommended suggestion when it comes to formulating in terms of essential oils. So we're not just trying to wow you when you open it up by putting overkill in terms of dosage. We're making sure that we're using it for its benefits first and foremost. Of course, the scent profile matters, but we're not going to be putting an excessive amount that sometimes can trigger people.
Makes sense to me. You know, I'm curious about this too, Rebekah, while we're talking. I think the products are great. I've seen them. I'm holding them. They do have like very clean ingredients, which I can back up, which is great. The website's very clean. Your marketing stuff is very clean. There's just so many things here that really do line up correctly. Where does that experience come from? And what is like a day in the life with Rebekah? How is it? Like, just tell me about your day-to-day business strategies and the things you're thinking about.
I think the first part of your question, the experience, I think first and foremost, it probably comes from some genes. My grandfather was a very, very creative man. He was in theater. He also did a lot of work with stained glass. And he was just an artist through and through. And my mother also got her degree. She was an art major and got her degree in art and is extremely talented. She'll be 80 in May, and she still impresses me with just her doodling alone. I'm just like, geez. So the creative kind of aspect, I think, is owed to mom and granddad. And the second part of your question, the day to day. Oh,
yeah, let's go.
I'm so if you take those personality traits, my main one that I get on all the personality trait tests, the main one that shows up is like achiever. So I love a to-do list. I love to feel productive. I love to check things off my list. So a day in the life looks like me starting out trying to give to myself a little bit before the day gets hectic. So today I went to the gym. I had a nice little parfait with some fruit and yogurt to give me some energy, of course, the coffee. And then I just get to, okay, what's on my list? What does my calendar look like? So I'm not missing any meetings or exceptional interviews with Robert White. And then, yeah, it's just game time. How many things can I get off of my off of my to-do list?
I feel you.
So that can be anything from, working on a batch of product to catching up with admin things like emails and whatnot. But the day in the life is very, very packed.
Are you guys direct to customer through the website, just e-commerce, or is there stores that carry the product as well? What's the distribution like?
Yeah, so both. We are expanding our wholesale and in stores throughout the nation. We plan to expand internationally soon, and we are online. So a lot of customer-facing opportunities as well in terms of events and pop-ups. We travel nationally to do different events. So if anyone's out there that has any event ideas or pop-up ideas, we We love to engage in the community and kind of share who we are and contribute in that way in terms of self-care.
Very cool. I want to tap into one more category with you. So on your website, there's you're obviously very charitable as well. It looks like for the Eaton fires that happened in California, you guys were involved with that, giving 15% of all your sales from January to the fires to help those people that were having that issue. And then below that part on the website, it says Black History in Altadena, California. Obviously, as a female entrepreneur, Black woman, there's obviously some other kind of things that come up when we talk about you being a business owner. So just kind of incorporate or educate me a little bit on some of that stuff. Was there anything that you kind of felt like that was different because you were a woman or because you're a woman of color? Like, just, I know it's a rough topic, but I'm just kind of curious to see because it's always perspective. So what kind of things did you pick up on in that when you created your business? Was there pushback? Was there, whatever? Like, just give me some information about it.
Yeah. So first things first. Yeah, I was actually born and raised in Altadena and Pasadena. Okay. So I know the area very, very well. And, every other person that I know was impacted in some way, shape, or form. So that one really hit home. Mm-hmm. And, it was just the right thing to do. There was no other way but to, do whatever we could to get involved and just use our platform to share in any way on educating people. Being a woman, being a Black woman, it is a huge part of just how we show up. I think when you're a minority of any sort, whether it's a woman, whether it is, a Black person, I think there is just a different way that you navigate through life, often in the spaces that I'm in. I think, I live in a town just north of the city here of Seattle, and I think there's like maybe 1% Black people. So, you show up in spaces and you're the only one. So with that alone, there is a different way that you show up. You often are showing up feeling like you're holding the weight of representing your culture. And sometimes that also shows up in womanhood, in just, I think, the way that we're often the minority. I think, that impacts me less in this industry because there are a lot of women in this specific industry of, self-care, skincare. Right. But I think what is more on the forefront is just representing Black culture and just showing that there is space for us in many, 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 many different avenues, not just one, not just two, but I think creating a lane for luxury and making sure we're represented in that realm is really important. Letting people know that we exist in that space and that we deserve luxury just like anyone else. And I think in short, those are some of the things that come up. But that's a whole book in itself. I can go on and on and on and on.
Completely understand that too. I mean, I really wanted to kind of just highlight the idea that you're a successful businesswoman. No matter what the color of your skin is, I applaud you. The idea that you gave to the fires was awesome. I apologize that your town went through that, but so glad that you were able to give back. If my hometown went through something like that, I'm sure I would lay down the red carpet and do all I could to help my community. Your products are very well marketed. Everything is great. I mean, seeing the product and now speaking with you, it's a hard yes from me. So I hope people will go check you out. It's onyxandpetal.com is the website. Also on Instagram, Onyx and Petal, and then Facebook also, Onyx and Petal. So go check out the products, learn more about Rebekah's story through social media, check out the website. But yeah, the products are great. I highly recommend people that are listening to this to go check this out.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Thank you for listening to the show. Please take a minute to head over to www.savfair.com and subscribe to our publication.